everybody. This is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please hit like, share, and subscribe if you have yet to do so. That helps me get the word out. And if you get anything from my work, a connected dot, an epiphany, a mind blow moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom. And if you're interested in pyramids, business card holders, artwork for your walls, pyramids for your healing needs, all that could be found on AllyKatzkreations211.com, where you can pick up a fun piece from me, and shipping is included in the United States. And I do ship out to other countries. And I also make candles. So gifting needs, email me. Personal survival, a chapter that I couldn't hold off on because tomorrow I'm going to be doing spiritual soul advice. I'm still integrating some things that I've been getting, and I want to make it cohesive and understandable because it's mushy mush in my mind right now, sadly. Just a lot of profound, great things. I put out a TikTok this morning about your definition of things, how we perceive and program to think of things one way, and yet our definition has to change. It's all up here. But back to the book. Check out my TikTok, AllyKat211. Graduation. Before I even begin this, Ra talks about harvest and graduation. It's the same thing. It's the same concept. Ascension is the same concept. So we'll see what they have to say about graduation as we hear it from a lot of different sources. And harvest, graduation, what does this all mean? Besides raising your awareness and moving up a density and dimension. We'll see what they tell us. Earth may be considered as the seminary of heaven, where the soul is placed to contact the material, that it may develop and perfect a more mature individuality. It is the rudimentary school where the most material conditions for spiritual development may be contacted and mastered. A soul school. Earth conditions, therefore, constitute a common or grade school for the soul. Their lessons prepare us for greater soul growth and unfoldment as we learn to express more and more of the spiritual qualities of our real self under the handicaps of material limitations. As if they already tapped into all this universal wisdom and is giving you a perfectly packaged definition of what Earth is and Mother Gaia. This is bananas. Too cool for school. This is what we all need to really comprehend and absorb, understand, and really make terms with this. Because a lot of people just live life. We're programmed to believe in whatever it is that you were indoctrinated in. And we are always embodying those programs. Where Dolores Cannon has been telling you, the Law of One has been telling you, so many other books and people have been telling you what this world is. When you emotionally detach to humanness, the emotional states to things, you'll start understanding the school tenfold. Because you're not giving situations that would cause you anger, would cause you harm, would cause you things as I'm going to be pissed off at the world. I hate human beings. Instead, you're going to be like, okay, what is this teaching me? Okay, I'm in school. What am I learning? It's a school. And we're not all going to get A's all the time. We might get C's. We might not deal with a situation appropriately, or we overreacted to something that was really minute, but we took it emotionally too hard on ourselves. And we brought all this chaos and scattered energy to us because you're attracting the wrong shit. So this is school. And each time we kind of mess up or we kind of fail a lesson, it's a better understanding of how do we better this lesson next time if it comes in my path? What is it that I need to learn in order for this soul growth to mature? Just as in the common school, there are many grades and many teachers. So in the common school of earth life, there are many grades and conditions of many kinds of teachers. The grade, a type of environment in which we start this life, depends on the degree of unfoldment we have obtained in past lives, as we have already explained in a previous chapter. For we bring into this incarnation the net results of the lessons we have learned in previous lives. This stock of lessons learned and the character gained we build into the new personality as inherent abilities, talents, likes and dislikes, the expression of which cannot be accounted for by the law of physical heredity. That law applies only to the type of body our parents furnished us as an instrument through which to manifest. We progress. As we make the best use of these inborn qualities to learn the new lesson which we incarnated to learn, we progress from grade to grade. But if we fail to learn the lessons of life, which result in spiritual advancement, we waste our opportunities and so have to experience the same conditions again and again. In this, and even in subsequent incarnations until the needed qualities have been built into and manifested in our character. So it is of no use for us to try to play hooky in this school of life by refusing to face and conquer the conditions which life brings to us and to learn the lessons contained therein. We must accept the moral responsibility of the individual and that he makes his own happiness or unhappiness as he obeys or disobeys nature's physical and spiritual laws. And remember that the door to reformation is never closed to any human soul here or hereafter. From the spirit world comes this message. Each individual comes into the world to do a job, and he comes here best and happiest only when it is completed. After he has gathered to himself as nearly as possible his requisite of work and experience, the purpose of the present divulgence is to restore in Earth's consciousness the necessity of individual effort and the assurance that the effort will not be wasted. The only assurance of this is a return to the belief in immortality. Sorry, I keep saying immorality. I don't know why. The best proof of growth in character is the manifestation of the fruits of the Spirit, listed by St. Paul as, quote, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness, end quote. When we return to our spiritual home, these are the only things that go with us, for we can take none of this world's goods. We can take only the character we have developed and a memory of our earthly experiences together with the satisfaction of a work well done and the happiness of remembering the little kindnesses, the good deeds, the helpfulness and encouragement we have given to our fellow travelers on the way. We may also carry over poignant regrets for the many opportunities for advancement we have missed or neglected, for a life misspent or wasted, or perhaps we will have remorse for our evil deeds and the injustices and sufferings we have inflicted upon others. Pause. Yes and no to a lot of that, because you are where you're supposed to be. You're playing your movie out, and the only thing you have control over is what timeline you're jumping to. What lessons have you already excelled at that keep repeating and have a deeper meaning for you to go back into? We have to understand that we chose the suffering. We chose our scenarios, our lives, our color of our skin, the language you speak, the country of origin that you are from. You picked this. And inherently, that collection of what you are, what makes your physical vehicle up, is the collective that you represent and the karma thereof that needs to be cleared. And you chose whatever you are to be the best, to manifest and transmute the negative energy into the positive so Mother Gaia can move up. When we inflict harm or suffering on others, maybe we were contracted to do such. Or perhaps it's a lesson that you keep failing to recognize, or them, one or the other. But at the end of the day, it's Source who judges, which is yourself. You're the one, after you physically die and move forward, you're going to get a review. You're going to look back on your earth life and you're going to be like, okay, what did I not do? What can I improve next time? If there is a next time. We're graduating. Why do you think so many of us have difficult lives? Why did we choose so many lessons? You're like, this is overwhelming, because you knew up there, this was it. You're moving on up. You're graduating. So we are the ones who are moving up. We're graduating. We're being harvested. We're not going to have a comeback unless you choose to have a comeback to third dimension. I am not coming back for my own personal sense. Get effing out of here. I've been here too long. And I know why. I volunteered to come back to help and aid all the time. I'm a good person on many different levels. But we got to take these words and really give ourselves compassion and be the empath, and to say, okay, I might have not had the light of day to recognize my wrongs. Now this is the time to purge those, release those, and get them away from you, because they're not serving you anymore. Real growth happens when you change your mind and how you react to the stimulus that is being presented at you. We continue to grow. We repeat for emphasis what we have said in other chapter, that when we leave this earth plane, we do not immediately reach maturity, nor are we through with lessons. Oh, definitely not. We are told from the other side. Quote, get over any idea that death is going to be instantaneously transform you into a celestial being. You did not leap into maturity when you graduated from high school into college. There is no sudden jump which will transform you. You take over what you are. That is the real continuity. it is not the real continuity of going over to something easier and adapted to all your peculiarities. Kind of get that out wrong, but it's there. It is a smooth transition. You got to do it away with the superstition that your handicaps here will be instantly eliminated there. Get adapted here, and then you will enter without conditions. It is a smooth, beautiful thing, this continuity. The division between lines is an imaginary equator. What are you doing now? What you're doing now carries over. Your real wealth and capital, which will rehabilitate you in any change that comes to you, is the extent to which you have developed this inner reality. It is what gives strength to character, the power to convince and influence others, the calm acceptance of temporary destructions of one's impermanent possessions and surroundings, end quote. It is true. You don't take anything with you besides your soul after you die in this physical material world. Why each video I keep stressing to please detach. As much as we are consciously one and the same, we're individualized. And that doesn't change in other densities. You understand when you move forward that you have a divine complement. You have whatever gender you're engendered here now, your opposite is waiting for you up there. Some of them are reincarnated. And then you then find out that your androgynous being is you, but it's two female male merge into one. And then you find out what your higher self is only at this level density. And then there's other higher selves that exist in the chain of succession, along with all the entities that you are concurrently living and all the other dimensionalities that happen therefrom. It's very complex. And there's no amount of, you never stop learning. You're never stop challenged. They change, the dynamics change, the hologram changes, the matrix changes, the way things play out changes. They're different. But here in this school, we're only perceiving what our third density bodies allows us. So we got to let go of a lot of these things that we are attached to and understand that there's no end to the learning. There's no end to being taught. You're the teacher and the student in one breath. It's beautiful. And as another communicator expresses it, quote, there is no deception possible about the status of those who pass out of the body. It is not possible permanently for a man to disguise himself and by the assumption of titles or styles to pass himself as something he is not. Not all the uniforms, not all the bestowed decorations, not all the orders or horrifics of men will change a mean spirited man or a woman into a noble soul. Time spent in the service of humanity will alone perform the change. Honors are conferred by service. The dignity of the spirits arise only from its natural growth. And those who strive to serve to do so because they know of the happiness it will bring, not only in their world, but in ours, end quote. Worldly rank and title are leveled. Each must stand upon the foundations of his own character and development, while some mischievous spirits try sometimes to pose before inquirers as being something great or important. Their deception is easily seen and known on the spirit side of life. Many of the spirit counselors, in telling of the life after death, speak of the period or temple of self-examination to which we go after the passing, Here alone in silence and with memory of the past life, most vivid, the soul reviews that life as it passes in panorama before it and judges and grades itself accordingly. In this judgment is put not only thoughts, words, and deeds, but also motives. And this we should remember that motives are important. And as we strive for mastery, let us examine our motives as well as our thoughts, words, and deeds. Dwelling in the spirit world. Those who come back from the other side to tell us of the home over there vary greatly in the description of these homes. This has a tendency to raise a doubt in the minds of many to the variety of message. But the communicators tell us over and over again to impress the fact on our minds that we do not all have the same kind or degree of home in the spirit world, any more than we do in this earth world, since each one of us largely built his eternal home from there during his life here while in body. Our home is the spirit world, is our dwelling place there, our realm, the right to which we have earned while on the earth plane, according to our consciousness on this earth plane, is our dwelling place in the spirit world. And as we progress in consciousness here, so are we able to go on and build more stately mansions for the soul. The following authoritative message from the spirit world will enlighten us. Quote, I found a home prepared for me in spirit life, but incomplete. I am now working to complete it. Every act of my earthly life, every secret thought I found had taken tangible form. During our sojourn on earth, our homes are prepared for us by the angels and are built of the vibrations which go forth into the spiritual atmosphere from our hearts and lives. Willpower, when it subdues evil, beautifies the home. The smallest act of mercy, kindness, or compassion, of aid, of self-denial, of intellectual or bodily labor, to please, benefit, or instruct others, will make its own beauty around the spirit and will be found in some living object in the spirit home, objects which are sources of satisfaction and joy. It should be remembered by the children of men that it is not so much intellect on the earth as goodness, purity, and self-sacrifice that prepares the soul for the homes of the blessed. End quote. Another great teacher and seer speaking from the spirit world says that what mortals need to fit them to heaven or to build their house not made with hands, eternal in the heaven, is more trust in God, more faith in prayer, more true culture, more self-sacrifice, more of the attributes of humanity, meekness, kindness, love, purity, honesty, serenity, justice, and truthfulness. Our ascent. A cork rises in water to the extent of its buoyancy. So do the discarnate souls almost as automatically ascend to that realm of the astral world to which their degree of spiritual unfoldment, vibrations of thought, character, and associations enable them to respond and affinitize. From that region, they progress to the still higher realms according to the efforts they make and the degree of spiritual unfoldment they obtain. Conversely, all we have to do to contact the unseen worlds is to rise the vibrations of our consciousness until it responds to the rate of the unseen realm we desire to contact. And since everything to which our consciousness responds is real to us, while we are responding to it, when this contacted, the unseen worlds become a real and substantial to us as is the physical world when we are responding to its lower octave of vibrations. Desire realm. As the desire realm is the region to which the most undeveloped and least progressed souls are congregated, including the atheists and the gross materialists, whose vibrations are slightly above the physical, they are able to exert great influence upon the lower and less developed class of people who are still on Earth. It is these vicious and malign entities who are still seeking to express their evil tendencies on Earth by influencing those who are sensitive and respond to their forces, who are to a certain extent responsible for instigating our crime waves. But again, let us repeat, we do not have to contact or fight our way through the lower slums of the astral unless something in us affinitizes us to them for a time until it is purged from us. For some time after we pass over, our afterlife seems to be but a continuation of the interests of our earth life. And if our main thoughts and desires are still centered on earth conditions, we naturally remain in the realm close to earth until we graduate from the realm and go higher. The welcoming committee. Death does not mean that we pass out into a vast realm of or unknown region of darkness, uncertainty, or loneliness, or even into a bright and shining heaven, or into a burning fiery hell. Usually we pass right into the arms of our loved ones. They know that we are about to graduate from Earth's common grade school, and they gather as a reception committee to greet and help us upon our arrival. One voice from the spirit world has said that extrication of the spirit from the body is an office assigned to a certain order of angels. They receive soul kindly and introduce them to the new sphere, where they quickly seek out those with whom they had an affinity. Newcomers from the earth rejoice at the meeting their friends again, and their families, friends rejoice at the arrival. Husbands and wives meet and continue together for a long or short time according to their affinity. Let us repeat the comforting assurance we give in the realms of the living dead, page 49, that all that is necessary for your loved ones to be met by a reception committee in the afterlife is for you to send out a strong mental wireless for the helpers, and they will be gathered to meet the newcomers. So when Morgan passed over, I passed her soul up and over to my parents, who are crossed over, who their parents met them, and other family members who have crossed over. There is no amount of, well, I hated my father and I hated this one, and that person was evil. Okay, but that slate kind of gets dropped. When you move higher and into another form, you do your life review, you see the wrongs you made, and yeah, here we take it literal. They're evil people, but perhaps there was a reason why they acted. Maybe that was a reason for you to awaken. Whatever that reason is, it doesn't necessarily matter because things are not the same up there, down there, wherever, here, than they are in our physical form. I just really want you to remember that when shit hits the fan in our physical world and a parent or somebody does some heinous shit to you, it's hard to forgive. But that experience, if you emotionally detach from that, you see that it was necessary, or you see that for them, it was a learning for them, and you were just the person filling that role. Like I have said, I did not get along with my father that passed away. Did not get along with him in this life, in the physical. I have more of a connection to my father in spirit than I've done when he was alive. And I could say that a lot of people have the same emotional states and feelings about their loved ones that passed over, that some things and qualities they did not like and maybe had a distance from them. Some things you hear in the here and now in the physical form can't forgive, but when you see a bigger and broader picture of the whys and you speak to them and share your energy together again, things change. Workers. After a few days of readjustment to the new surroundings, many of these new graduates join the great companies of unselfish servers who work to help the millions of other new arrivals whose sudden thrust into the astral world leaves them so confused that they cannot understand what has happened. These workers are organized in regiments, companies, squads of rescuers, in which they work must, like the Red Cross, workers do here on Earth, giving explanations, companionship, and comfort to all who need them, end quote. I wouldn't compare them to any association on earthly terms. Not a fan of that organization, just by the way. But just like your Rancha, it's a couple of things they do get right in there. You're given assignments and you work in teams. You don't remember because you've done this before. It's getting up there, and that transition takes time for you to start remembering like your true self. But you do have a job. There's no getting out of it, guys, and you do get rest. There is transitional rest, I promise. Guidance and enlightenment are needed over there, even as they are here, especially during the period immediately following the transition, before adjustment has been made to the changed conditions. Those who make the transition in love are born into a new realization of love's infinite capabilities and its boundless building power. Only one who is free from all such barriers and who is indeed and truth a world lover can become a leader and teacher, liberator of such consciousness bound egos. One who has recently made the transition has been called the friend of the world, and already he is engaged in work on the inner plane, the scope and nature of which is such as to amplify, justify the friendly appellation thrust upon him. The Grand Council. The late President Roosevelt graduated from the Conference of the Big Three Statesmen into the Grand Council of the World Statesmen, who are working not only for their own nations, but for the best good of all. This council includes our former presidents, Washington, Lincoln, Harrison, Cleveland. They spell Cleveland with a Q, by the way. Interesting there. McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, and Wilson, together with similar-minded statesmen and former rulers of other countries. There, with the wise assistance of their other members of the council, our late president will do his utmost to guide the decisions of our country and influence for the best the destiny of the world. His expert influence is so plainly recognized that the newspapers write quite casually, the man whose spirit presence presides over this conference has brought home to the onlookers ever since the parley started. Associations. The saying that birds of a feather flock together holds true even more forcibly over there than it does here on Earth. Your vibrations naturally affinitize you with like thoughts and desires. There can be no pretense or dissembling over there. For your vibrations reveal exactly what you are, although there is much effort made to pose. But this cannot be done, and thus your vibrations affinitize you with your kind almost as automatically as a dial telephone selects a number which you dial. Unsympathetic members of an earthly family coming into spirit life automatically separate, each seeking congenital groups and societies. The law of attraction is the governing principle. Long sleep. If before you go, you had long drawn out, exhausting illness or have suffered much, you are usually given a practical, restful sleep. If you are a materialist and do not believe in life after death and go under an influence of that thought, you will naturally be surrounded by clouds of such thought forms and will remain in a state of coma until the amount of thought force which you have put into the idea has expended itself. This may take 1,000 years or more, and you will awaken and see how foolishly mistaken you have been. Once you have been released from the bonds of the flesh and accustom ourselves to the conditions in the higher worlds, we find that the universal urge to eternal progress still prevails. We therefore desire to continue the unfoldment of our spiritual qualities and to the progress into an ever greater realization of our oneness with the divine. We also seek to unfold all the qualities which by their practice will enable us to be of greater service in whatever realm or region we find ourselves. Hence, we occupy ourselves with those pursuits which facilitate our purgation and therefore our advance. Children mature. The law of eternal progress causes those who graduate from earth life during childhood to continue their growth until maturity, just as they would have there remained here on earth. As a noted spiritual teacher has said, the world calls us here dead, but sometimes people unable to endure the thought of such a blanking out speak of a loved one as having gone on. That idea, the thought of going on, is more correctly true. It is true that we are changed, but so is man in his earth experience, changed from a newborn child to adult. And not only is he changed physically, but his perceptions are changed, his power of assimilation, his control of himself and of the things of earth about him. End quote. Since children have not had time to be greatly impressed with the more material conditions of earth life, their minds remain pure and unsullied by the passions and gross selfish desires of the more mature nature of life. Upon graduation, they therefore naturally ascend into the higher realms of the astral life, to which the keynote of their characters affinitize them. There, they are met by angelic spirit helpers, whose main delight is to work with the helped children. They watch and wait for the coming of the children, that they may bear them tenderly to the rest homes or schools best fitted to their needs. In the spirit world, says one writer, I have seen the happy groups of children frolicking, dancing, gathering flowers, listening to music, gaining instruction, and unfolding in beauty and in life. Gleesome sounds burst from glad hearts, sweet lisps of affection, and the mischievous frolic of the child's heart. But around every child was an aura or a thread of life that connected it with the earth, so that it was to know where it was born and to tell each one's parentage. It was forever floating through the spirit atmosphere. The spirit forces of the parents went upward, and by natural law wound their life in and around the life of their little ones. This law is a result of affections, and if the child is loved but little, then the spirit law has severed the child from its parents' life, since it was by attraction, which is love, that the life of earth followed it away into the spirit world and wound itself about the child of its love. There is no force used but a natural law of spirit, law of life. The spirit bodies of little children grow transparently lovely. No human mind can conceive of the beauty and the grace of these little ones. No unlovely object harms them. No frightful disease rends them. They unfold as in spring the rosebud opens to the sun, or the petals of a lily unclose to the light of day. They are bare of semblance at first to their natural bodies, but as their souls grow and their spirits shine with the life of their souls, then they appear as their interior or mind makes them. The spirit body flows from the natural body. It is composed of electric, magnetic, and spiritual life. And when first born into the spirit life, it has the exact form of the natural body, but as the grosser particles of earthly magnetism are given off, it becomes purer and truer, higher and holier. Then it assumes a form of perfection and beauty. What the soul wills or reveals, that is life and form and substance to the spirit. It often occurs that parents pass to the spirit world not long after their children, or perhaps at the same time, being uninstructed in spiritual things and ignorant of the spiritual laws. They are ill-fitted to develop the spiritual life of the child. Therefore, never mourn that you cannot go when your child goes. It has wiser nurses than you, better teachers. If it has not more love, yet it has higher love, the love developed by wisdom. Don't you all take that literally, please. For those of you who have lost a child, you're supposed to continue on here in the physical. Please don't do anything to do harm to yourselves, and seek help. It's there. If you're depressed or still in a morning state and can't get out of it. I don't necessarily agree with that, and I find some hiccups in there, but a lot of it's true. But I know people who has lost children that lived the entirety of their lives in service to others, in service to children. You all serve a purpose. Don't leave. Age disappears. On the other hand, those who graduate at an advanced age gradually loses all trace of old age or disease until they return to their most glowing stage of maturity, usually in the early 30s. In a message recently received from Sir Oliver Lodge, after more than 4 years experience in the afterlife, to be sure of its facts, he corroborates our statements by saying, I think you might say that I have knocked off about 30 to 35 years in appearance. The process of rejuvenation has been very easy. But if those in the spirit world return to communicate with those left behind on earth, they must present themselves much the same as they looked when they graduated, or they would not be recognized. Likewise, those who graduate in battle or other operations lose all trace of wounds and regain their lost limbs, for the astral body is not mutilated by physical operations. Sorry about that. I want to say that my mom chose to be 30, and I think my dad's 35 in spirit worlds. And I don't necessarily care if they're it depends on the person, but for me, when I know my parents are around, like when they're like dropping down in density so I can recognize who's who, I don't see them. I feel them. I can feel my hand being held. And then many times on this channel, like my father, the last thing I did with my father was cry. And that's the, I feel my hand being held and I start crying. The frequency's too high. When my mom comes, I still get the hand being held, but I feel calm. So I know how to distinguish both of their energies to know who's who. Doesn't matter what they look like because they're light in their consciousness. I mean, for us, perceptionally, when you're not aware or awake and you need a medium or an outside source to help depict what they are, of course, they're going to have to go with a projection of their old selves. Get that. But my parents are young again. They chose the youth. Sorry, guys, I had to crack my back, my shoulders, my neck. It's nice outside. It's supposed to rain. Passing in battle. Those who pass on suddenly in battle and find it difficult for a while to realize where they are, they know that they are not dead, for they see their buddies and friends around them. And since they are clothed in astral duplicate of their uniforms, it is difficult for them to realize that they have lost their physical bodies. They realize that they have had some kind of physical shock, but they don't know just what has happened. As we explain elsewhere, in the case of sudden death, either by accident or in a war, when the mind is still filled with the intense excitement of battle, the first awakening often brings the soldier the sense of being suddenly awakened from a dream, and he looks around in amazement for the familiar battlefield. With some few, the force of the old hostilities and thoughts may for a time impel them to hunt out and attack the enemy and return to the battlefield on the physical plane. But those in the astral who keep on trying to fight are those who have made themselves channels through which the evil astral forces could express, and who were so filled with hatred and lust for killing that they desire to continue their habits of butchery after passing on. However, the majority are met by their buddies who have gone on before and are anxious to explain to the newly arrived that for them, the fighting is over, for they have graduated into a higher school of life. As an old friend has well said, soldiers who are hurled from the physical bodies while in the midst of battle for their fatherland find themselves limited on the physical plane by boundaries corresponding to those that held them nationally, confined before crossing over. The joy that comes with gaining the universal consciousness is not theirs yet. The return. Since thought, desire, and love are even greater controlling factors over there than they are here, one of the first impulses of the newly arrived is to contact their homes and their loved ones. That strong desire naturally carries them immediately to their homes over the magnetic current of love, connecting them with those left behind. And since they are now still dosed to earth conditions, they often appear to their loved ones in dreams or walking visions. Although they cannot appear in physical form, they often make their appearance felt through currents of magnetism and love. Since their dense astral bodies abstract heat and vitality from the living, their first contact may cause a chill or shudder to pass over those living ones thus contacted. After a few such contacts, however, the chill becomes a thrill of recognition, later a current of warmth, or a glow may pass over the loved ones on earth as they respond, for as the astral body comes purified and refined, it no longer causes chill. Disappointments. These contacts are often ignored or shaken off by the living, either through lack of response because they are not distinctly felt or recognized, or through fear due to ignorance if they are felt. These rebuffs are still disappointment to the departed ones. In fact, it is as though they came home and found nobody to respond to their knock at the door. If their presence is felt and response is refused, it is like slamming the front door in their faces. Possibly. Your response. While you may not dream about or feel the magnetic presence of a loved one, a thought of him may suddenly pop into your mind. When you have not been thinking of him, or something that he has said may suddenly occur to you. In such cases, this is usually due to his concentrating his mind upon you, and your mind responds to his thought through mental telepathy. Since the fact of telepathy, or the direct exchange of thought from mind to mind without physical contact, or the spoken or written word, has been so thoroughly demonstrated pubally to vast radio audiences and otherwise by the famous Dr. Dunninger, such exchange is no longer doubted, even if not thoroughly understood. And since the departed one still has his mind functioning perfectly, he can communicate through telepathy even more easily than he could when he was on the earth plane. One test to determine whether it is really the loved one who is communicating is that his thought come into your mind in the characteristic way in which he would express them. When you realize that any of these forms of contact are being made, if possible, stop whatever you're doing and pay attention, just as you would if the phone or front doorbell rang. Mentally say, "Yes, dear one, I recognize your presence. Please stand outside my aura and impress my mind with your message." Then proceed to talk with him as though he were upstairs or in another room, out of sight, but not out of hearing. In this way, you can receive much love, comfort, and guidance. It is this way that God often uses our departed ones as messengers to answer our prayers for comfort and guidance. Be sure not to converse out loud with those in the unseen unless you are alone, for persons overhearing you might think you're mentally unbalanced. So I know when my parents are in my field. I know when they're coming down into density to hang out around me, support me, surround me, give me a hug, be in my presence. And a lot of times I do these videos, they're here. For those of you who don't have those types of abilities, it's seeing names on doors. It's thinking about somebody, and you go into your car and on the radio, their favorite song appears, or a song that you both cherish together and had really good memories with comes on. It's those things that just say, "Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Hi. Hi," because they're there. When you are out in nature and you're looking at birds, both my parents come as cardinals. My dad comes as a red one. My mom usually comes as blue. When they're in my backyard, I just say, "Hi, Mom, Dad." These are the littlest things that can bring you comfort. I lost my father when I was 22 years old. I was happy that he left because he was sick and he was suffering. I didn't want to see it anymore, but I didn't want him to have to go through that anymore. It was only until later that I was not cognizant of the signs he was sending me. They were outside of my cognizant reach, and I was still developing as a mental medium. So I didn't really put two and two together. Oh, my dad's leaving me pennies all over the place. I didn't know that was my dad. But once I established that as a sign, there is another way. Your spirit leaves you coins, feathers. They tilt the pictures. Sometimes they need you to snap you out of something. They'll throw something off a shelf. That's not necessarily demonic or evil spirit doing that stuff. That could be a loved one trying to get you to be aware of something. We're always flinging to the negativity first. It's a demon, it's a bad spirit, it's a blah. How do you know? Or because you're programmed, because you watch all these channels and all these shows that it's all about demonic and evil spirits. There's nothing wrong with watching those shows, but it's a program. So if you're not in the awareness and you have somebody that you love pass away in a physical form, and you get signs from them, you might think it's evil, but that might be their way of trying to get attention from you. They're a thought away. They're always a thought away. My dad's coming down now because I feel like I have to cry. Like, I don't cry anymore, but like I feel that's his energy coming to me because I'm thinking about them. It's a thought. It's easy. They're just transformed into energy. That's all it is. Their consciousness. That's it. Honor that. We're so attached to physical form and we're so attached to people as a collective. We need to stop being so detached because that can actually keep them in a state in the astral form that's not cool. When we can release them in unconditional love, knowing that they are a thought away, they're always going to be with you. They're a part of your soul tribe. They're a part of the ray of light that came down with source, with you. You're going to meet their light again, I promise. Like I said, your soul is so infinite. And you're in other essences. They're in other essences. Your light will absolutely meet them again at some juncture in time. But your soul journey here is to individualize, to have source experience itself through you individually. We're now going back up the ladder. We fell down the ladder and now we're going back up, where we're starting to get into the awareness of unity. We're not in that stage yet, but we're starting the process. We're stair-stepping to these processes. So you got to be aware that they're already up on that ladder. They're trying to assist you from where they are. Hey, Dad, we're energy. It's just transformed and it's beautiful. So for anybody who has, I've lost a lot of people in my life, physical death, a lot of people, and very, very close to me. And I've never mourned normally because I'm excited and happy for their transformation, that they got to ascend, that they are walking in another realm, that they have infinite amounts of access and knowledge that they can now help impart it on me and help steer me and protect me here. It's a beautiful thing. And I know it's difficult when you lose somebody that you love and there's an attachment there, but that's something you got to let go. You're never not going to love them. And if you didn't have the best relationship with them, still send them unconditional love, because they will see the errors of their ways, because they're going to judge themselves on it. It's hard to do that in the living flesh when you're stubborn and unable to change your perception. Your ego steps in. They transformed. So they took more of a entity spirit graduation step in that direction. But we are physically graduating now in the grain experiment, which is more what Dolores Cannon and Ross speaks of, but this is still very important because they already ascended. They changed their form already. Many of us will start the transition to form change at some stage of our lives. If your body can't handle the vibratory states and the frequencies of that change, you're going to have a physical death. There's nothing to be scared about. It's just a transition. The biggest, and I think the hardest thing for us humans to learn how to do is detach. The emotions. It's not to say not to love and not to care for and not to be with. It's just to understand that your emotional state needs to be prepared for such leavings and for such trauma. You got to prepare. Up here. Making contact. One of the best ways to call a loved one with whom you wish to make contact is to use a photograph, one in which their eyes look directly at you if possible. As you send out your call, focus your gaze upon the pupils of his eyes while you smilingly pour a warm current of love into them until he seems to smile back at you, or you feel the warm response, which shows the contact has been made. The same method has been used to comfort, heal, protect, and bless one who is still living in the flesh. Their progress. Remember although your loved ones may keep in close contact mentally or telepathically for years, this need not keep them from progressing and graduating into the higher realms of light, peace, beauty, and joy in spiritual activity, into which their spiritual advance affinitizes them. Therefore, do not hesitate to commune with them when you feel their presence or their thoughts. Provide that you keep in mind that they are still fallible mortals and that their advice is no more reliable now than it was when they were on earth, unless they have advanced in wisdom and passing on. Accept their advice only if it seems reasonable and receives confirmation from a glow of warmth, a thrill or a strong feeling of assurance or satisfaction from the Christ within. And here, we would like to quote message from a spirit teacher as a warning, which all those who are interested in spirit messages should hear and heed. Quote, remember that disorderly spirits still sympathetically connect with the earth, moving into your midst, are capable of doing great harm to humanity. They can commit actual sin through easy, negative-minded people upon earth. Changing worlds does not immediately change the desires of the miser, the thief, or the carnally minded. These passions and tendencies do not pertain to the body that is material, unthinking, and irresponsible. It is the spirit that thinks, wills, and does through the body. And it is the spirit, whether it is in the body or out, that is normally responsible, end quote. Only the very lowest types of the returning spirits come back to prove any of the religious creeds or to continue prejudice, revenge, or hatred. The vast majority of those who return are glad to come, to give words of love, cheer, and comfort to those left behind. The first thing they say is that they are happy that they can return. They still love those with whom they now talk. They see what is passing in their old homes, and they share the cares that were once theirs. The father is still concerned about his children's welfare. The young lovers are still absorbed in their affection for each other. The mother is still the preserver and protector of the home. Protection. To prevent you from being deceived by mischief-making or malicious spirits in the astral, always use some prayer for protection, like our protecting invocation wherever communicating. Owing to the war, conditions to the astral world are so confused and terrible that such protection is necessarily daily, especially for all who are sensitive to the invisible influence. The shedding of so much blood on the battlefields feeds countless swarms of low-type elementals in general. These elementals, together with great streams of thought forms of horror, hatred, anger, revenge, and desire to kill, now reinforced by similar thoughts of both embodied and disembodied, NAZIS, and Japanese, form great whirlwinds of evil force to sweep over mankind. If you open the door to such forces by giving away more easily than formerly to irritation and anger, you may be overwhelmed by them into an outburst of temper far beyond that for which there is any excuse. Also, if you feel usually gloomy, discouraged, or even physically tired, depleted, when there is no special physical or emotional reason, you may be reacting to these clouds of world evil, which are not your own. In such cases, recognize the possibility and refuse to react or give way to them, and protect yourself immediately with some protecting prayer. This chapter is written especially for the instruction and comfort of you who have lost loved ones, so that you may understand the condition of those who have graduated from this earth life. You can now look upon such transition not as death, but as graduation into a higher school in a continued, happier life in the higher worlds. Hence, services for such transition need not be regarded as a funeral, but as a graduation exercise. The departure of a loved one is just that, like of one who is graduated from one phase of life, leaving home to go into another phase, accepting that he departs to enter life in the higher worlds. In short, he has graduated to another state of being, a greater consciousness, where minus his cumbersome overcoat of flesh, he lives on, and he can come back to us to guide, protect, comfort, counsel, and encourage us, just as he did in the earth life with us. And let us repeat again for emphasis, those who have gone over to the spirit world do live, and in their own individuality, consciousness, character, and memory. And that will end that chapter. Like I've said, I've lost a lot of people in my life, and it's up to you to know what the signs are. Each individual soul, spirit, energy is going to bring you something different. The hardest part is differentiating who is giving you what. I know for one of my friends that passed away from cancer, my friend Seth, he usually puts a very annoying song in my mind. And I'm like, oh, hi, stop playing the song, please. Give me another sign. But he starts laughing. My cat Morgan, I have yet to hear from her, but I think she's already like, hi, human body. Yeah. She's already like, Ethan Cat too. He's funny shit. So guys, like between animals, between everything that we have here in this material world, we will meet it, their light again. And the beautiful unfoldment of that, unfortunately, isn't seen until we make that transition. But we can accept their energy. We can put up protection. That's why I say protection all the time in every greeting or leaving of a video. And that's because too many people think so negatively and think only negative thoughts. And some people are super positive, but still live in a negative sense. in their minds. They're in lack. They're in this. They're in that. This person's annoying them. They hate people. They hate this, and that's negativity. So other things can influence you and be deceitful. So don't ignore the radio. Don't ignore the coins, the birds, the flowers, symbolism in general. Don't ignore it. Be open-minded. It's a blessing that's a part of Source's paradigm that we all wrote, that we can still communicate with them. They never left us, and we're all one anyway. So choose to honor and celebrate your loved one that has passed, or any animal or whatever it is passed. Make sure you are protecting yourself and you putting that light around you. We're still in duality here. We're still dealing with good and evil, even if you're like me and you choose to seek out neutrality, it still doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It does, and for sure it's playing out, but what are you giving your energy to is really at the crux of that whole argument. Sending each and every one of you love, light, protection, grace, compassion, and shielding energy. Please be safe, be seen. Please don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe, and check out my TikTok channel. Check out my website, AllyKatkreations211.com. That is a big way to support me so I can keep the lights on and myself fed and little Thor fed. Fun times. And sorry I didn't do a video yesterday. The internet was being really wonky around here. Just my whole area was a little offset. They're doing a lot of construction. So every time I went to do something. So sorry about that, guys. And I had lawn work to do. So until the next one, guys, please be safe, be seen, be safe, enjoy, be the lighthouse for others. And I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye for now.